To truly grasp the depth of God's love and protection, we must first explore what these concepts mean in the fullest sense. Often in theology, God's love is described as unconditional agape, the selfless, boundless love that defies human understanding. It isn't love that is earned through our actions or behaviors, but love that originates from God's infinite goodness. Unlike the transient nature of human emotions, God's love remains unwavering, constant, and ever-present. This is a love that does not judge based on merit but envelopes all in its embrace, regardless of their circumstances or past. When we talk about God's protection, we are not simply referring to a passive, abstract idea. Protection in the divine sense goes beyond the physical shield we often envision. It's an active, powerful force that works in our lives, guarding our hearts, our minds, and our souls. Protection, in this context, is deeply intertwined with the promise of God's love, a love so strong that it becomes a shield against the storms of life. But what does this mean in practice? How does God's love and protection manifest in our everyday lives? In the Bible, God offers us many promises of His protection, but perhaps none so powerful as His assurance that He will never leave us nor forsake us. These promises provide comfort and hope, especially in times of turmoil. Take, for instance, the words of God in the book of Isaiah, "Do not fear, for I am with you, do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Isaiah 41:10. Here, God is speaking directly to His people, offering a profound guarantee of His unshakable presence and support. The imagery in this passage is powerful. God holds us with His righteous right hand, providing not just protection, but strength and guidance. This is not just a passive promise, it is a dynamic, ongoing relationship where God actively steps into our lives, lifting us when we fall, comforting us in our grief, and offering hope when we face despair. The love and protection of God, in this sense, becomes a foundation for living. It's a source of courage and peace that surpasses any trial or tribulation we may face. But the question then arises, why does God promise this love and protection? Why does He, the Creator of the universe, offer such a gift to mere mortals? The answer is simple yet profound: because He loves us. This divine love isn't contingent upon our actions or our worthiness, it's given freely, without expectation of return. In fact, God's love is so deep and unconditional that it transcends our understanding of love. It's not based on how good we are, or how much we deserve it, but on His infinite goodness. When we understand that God's love is unconditional, we begin to realize that His protection is equally boundless. It isn't limited to moments of crisis or danger but is a constant presence in our lives. Protection from God means that we are never truly alone, no matter how isolated we may feel. It means that even in our darkest moments, there is a light, an eternal, unbreakable light that guides us through. This protection doesn't just shield us from physical harm, but also from spiritual and emotional distress. It shields our hearts from bitterness, from anger, from fear, and from despair. This divine protection also comes with the understanding that God is not merely a passive observer of our struggles. His love moves Him to act on our behalf. Whether it's through the quiet whisper of peace during a storm or the strength to stand firm when the world feels as though it's falling apart, God's protection is always working on our behalf. There is a profound reassurance in knowing that we are not left to face life's battles alone. He is there with us, through every challenge, guiding and empowering us to persevere. One of the most profound demonstrations of God's love and protection is found in the life of Jesus Christ. Through His sacrifice, Jesus exemplified the deepest expression of love, the laying down of one's life for others. Christ's death on the cross is the ultimate act of divine protection, offering humanity not just protection from physical harm, but protection from eternal separation from God. In his sacrifice, Jesus offers us the ultimate shield, salvation and eternal life through faith in him. The relationship we have with God is not one of mere intellectual understanding, it is deeply personal. His love and protection are not abstract ideas, but living realities. And when we understand the depth of this love, it becomes a source of strength, the foundation upon which we can build our lives. For anyone feeling lost or alone, it is in the embrace of God's love and protection that we find solace. It is in trusting that his promises are true, and that his love is constant, that we can face the challenges of life with courage and peace. Ultimately, God's love and protection are about more than just comfort in difficult times. They are a call to live with the assurance that we are held, cared for, and loved beyond measure. As we trust in God's love and protection, we are reminded that no matter what we face, we are never abandoned. His love is our refuge, and his protection is our strength. And it is through this divine relationship that we can navigate life with a sense of peace and purpose, knowing that we are always held in the arms of the Creator who loves us unconditionally. When we delve deeper into the concept of God's love and protection, we encounter a rich tapestry of interpretations and theological beliefs that have shaped Christian thought over the centuries. These diverse perspectives offer profound insights into how God's love and protection manifest in our lives, and each one adds a layer of complexity to our understanding of the divine. One of the most influential frameworks in Christian theology comes from Calvinism, which teaches that God's love and protection are not based on human effort or merit, but on his divine will. According to Calvinist doctrine, predestination plays a central role in the relationship between God and humanity. In this view, God has already chosen certain individuals to receive his grace, and his protection is bestowed upon them as part of his eternal plan. This means that God's love is not available to everyone equally, but rather is given to those whom he has selected before time began. It is a comforting and awe-inspiring thought for many believers who see this as a sign of God's sovereign will at work, ensuring that those who are chosen are held in his loving care. While Calvinism presents one view, Arminian theology offers a contrasting perspective. Arminians believe that God's love is universal, extended to all people, regardless of their station or actions. In this framework, God's protection is not a predetermined gift, but rather a response to individual faith and trust. According to this belief, every person has the opportunity to receive God's love and protection through their own free will by choosing to believe in him and live according to his will. In Arminianism, God's love is often seen as a constant invitation, extended to all people, and his protection is a direct result of our relationship with him. It's a belief that emphasizes personal responsibility and the importance of our decisions in our spiritual lives. As we consider these differing views, we also encounter the profound idea of divine providence, which offers a powerful lens through which we can understand God's love and protection. Providence is the belief that God is not a distant observer but an active participant in our lives, guiding and shaping the events that occur. It suggests that God's protection is not just about physical safety or shielding us from danger, but about directing our lives according to a greater, divine purpose. In this understanding, God's love and protection are seen as part of his plan to guide us toward salvation, not only protecting us from harm but also from spiritual danger, leading us closer to his eternal truth. Perhaps one of the most well-known expressions of divine protection and guidance is found in Psalm 23, a beloved passage that has resonated with countless believers throughout the centuries. The psalm begins with a beautiful and simple declaration, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." These opening words encapsulate the core of the psalm's message. God's love and protection are comprehensive, not just providing for our material needs but also offering spiritual fulfillment and peace. The image of God as the shepherd emphasizes his active role in leading and caring for his people, guiding them through life's difficulties and uncertainties. The shepherd's care is tender and watchful, ensuring that the flock is safe, nourished, and protected. This metaphor illustrates how God's love is not passive or distant but a dynamic force that actively shapes our journey. Psalm 23 goes on to speak of God's protection in times of trial. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. In this part of the psalm, we encounter a powerful image of God's presence in the midst of life's challenges. The darkest valley symbolizes the struggles and adversities we all face, whether they are physical, emotional, or spiritual in nature. Yet, the psalmist expresses unwavering trust in God's protection, confident that God's presence will provide comfort and guidance, even in the darkest times. The rod and staff are tools used by the shepherd to defend and guide the sheep, further emphasizing the idea that God's protection is not merely a passive promise but an active, sustaining force. Moreover, this idea of divine protection extends beyond individual safety. It is about God's overarching care for humanity as a whole, leading His people towards their ultimate purpose. The protection God offers is therefore not just a means of shielding us from immediate danger, but also a way of guiding us toward a life of peace, fulfillment, and salvation. It is a protection that operates both in the present and for eternity, securing our hearts in the knowledge that we are held by a love that transcends time and space. The intersection of God's love and protection is beautifully illustrated in the story of Job from the Old Testament. Job's life, marked by tremendous suffering and loss, reveals the complexity of divine protection. Even though Job experiences profound hardship, his story ultimately affirms the reality of God's presence in times of suffering. Despite everything that Job faces, God's protection remains a constant undercurrent, as Job never loses his faith in God's ultimate goodness. This reminds us that God's protection isn't always about preventing harm but about sustaining us through it and using our struggles for a higher purpose. Throughout Christian theology, these theories and beliefs converge on one central truth, that God's love and protection are essential components of our spiritual lives. Whether we view this love through the lens of predestination or universal grace, and whether we understand His protection as a personal promise or a guiding providence, the message remains clear. God's love and protection are foundational to our understanding of His nature and our relationship with Him. They are not just abstract ideas but living, breathing realities that actively shape our lives and our journey toward salvation. When we speak of God's love and protection, we often invoke images of comfort and safety, of a divine guardian watching over us, shielding us from harm and guiding us through the tumultuous waters of life. It's a powerful and reassuring concept, one that provides solace in times of distress. But what happens when life doesn't seem to follow this divine blueprint? When good people suffer, when tragedy strikes, or when loss seems insurmountable, where is God's protection then? These questions have sparked heated debates and have led some to question the very nature of God's love and the validity of His protection. The most pointed criticism comes from a group of thinkers who ask, if God truly loves us and promises protection, why do bad things happen to good people? The tragedy of innocent lives lost, the suffering of children, or the seemingly endless cycle of pain in the world seem to contradict the very idea of a loving, all-powerful protector. The questions become unavoidable. Why does suffering persist if God's love is supposed to shield us from it? Why do we face illness, loss, and heartache, even when we are faithful and good? This paradox is most famously addressed by figures like Christopher Hitchens, the late British author and philosopher, who, in his critiques, argued that suffering is an inherent part of the human experience and that the idea of a divine protector is merely a comforting illusion. Hitchens, alongside many other prominent atheists and agnostics, contends that the concept of God's intervention is nothing more than an escape mechanism. They argue that to rely on a supernatural force to alleviate our worries is to abdicate responsibility for our own actions and decisions. For them, the presence of suffering does not diminish the existence of suffering itself. Rather, it highlights the fact that life, in its rawest form, is often unfair, unpredictable, and harsh. Moreover, this controversy has been further complicated by certain branches of Christianity, especially those following the teachings of the prosperity gospel. Proponents of this view claim that God's love guarantees success, prosperity, and protection from hardship for those who are faithful. According to them, belief in God should result in tangible blessings, health, wealth, and happiness. For these individuals, a lack of material success or personal happiness is seen as a failure in one's faith. It's a seductive belief, offering the promise of divine favor in exchange for devotion, but it raises serious ethical questions about the true nature of God's love. Critics of the prosperity gospel argue that this teaching distorts the essence of Christian theology. They point out that it oversimplifies God's role in the world and the complexities of human existence. Not everyone who believes in God experiences material wealth or success, and not everyone who faces hardships does so because of a lack of faith. To suggest otherwise, they argue, misrepresents the profound and often mysterious nature of God's relationship with humanity. In fact, the Bible itself does not guarantee immunity from suffering. Rather, it speaks of enduring trials, finding strength through faith, and discovering meaning in the midst of pain. This clash of perspectives, whether suffering is a test of faith, a consequence of human free will, or a result of cosmic injustice, forces us to reconsider the nature of God's protection. Does God's protection mean freedom from suffering? Or does it mean the strength to endure through life's inevitable challenges? What role does human agency play in the face of tragedy? Is it possible that the divine protection we seek is not about avoiding pain, but about learning to navigate it with grace, resilience, and faith? As we grapple with these questions, we must acknowledge the complexity of the issue. The tension between faith and suffering isn't easily resolved. For many, the idea of God's love and protection remains a deeply personal and spiritual matter, one that requires a nuanced understanding of both divine and human agency. It's not simply a question of whether God will shield us from harm, but whether we can find meaning and growth in the midst of suffering, and whether we can trust in God's presence through it all, even when answers are elusive. In the end, the controversy surrounding God's love and protection is not just a theological debate, it's a question that touches on our deepest fears and hopes as human beings. It's a question about the nature of faith, the reality of suffering, and the possibility of finding peace even in the most turbulent storms. For those who believe, the promise of God's love may not be about a life free from difficulty, but about knowing that, no matter the challenges we face, we are not alone. Amid the controversies and questions that surround the concept of God's love and protection, there remains one undeniable truth. The core message of the Bible is one of profound hope. While the challenges of life may persist, and suffering may never fully disappear, the promise of God's love and protection is not about being shielded from pain. Instead, it is about the divine strength and peace to endure even the most difficult of times. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Romans, powerfully articulates this message of unwavering assurance. He writes, "For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels, nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation, will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." Romans 8:38-39. This verse reminds us that no matter the trials or tribulations we may face, nothing can sever our connection to God's love. There are no obstacles too great, no circumstances too dire, that can isolate us from the love that surrounds us. In the darkest moments, when the world feels heavy and our burdens feel too much to bear, we can hold on to the truth that God's love remains steadfast and unchanging. The essence of God's protection is not about sparing us from all suffering, but rather about equipping us with a spiritual resilience to face life's difficulties with courage and faith. In every storm that shakes us, God's presence is there to provide peace that surpasses all understanding. This peace is not a fleeting emotion or a temporary escape. It is a deep and lasting tranquility that anchors us even in the most turbulent of times. It's a peace that transcends our circumstances, reassuring us that we are not alone, no matter how overwhelming the situation may seem. We are often told that the road to peace begins with trust. But what does it truly mean to trust in God's love and protection? Trust is not simply the absence of fear or the avoidance of hardship. It is the willingness to believe in the promise that God is with us, guiding us, and sustaining us through every trial. Trust means acknowledging that while we may not always understand the reasons behind our struggles, we can rest in the assurance that God is faithful to His word. Trust is the foundation upon which we build our lives, knowing that God's love provides the strength we need to endure. There is a unique kind of comfort in knowing that we do not have to face the challenges of life alone. Whether it's dealing with personal loss, health struggles, or the weight of the world's uncertainties, we are never abandoned. God's protection is not about removing obstacles but about walking with us through them, offering the strength to persevere and the wisdom to grow from our experiences. This protection is most evident not in the absence of hardship, but in the ability to rise above it and continue moving forward, with faith as our anchor. In times of doubt and despair, it is essential to remember that God's love does not promise an easy life, but a life that is filled with divine presence. The peace that God offers is not a shallow or temporary comfort, it is a deep, unwavering peace that holds us steady in the midst of chaos. This peace assures us that, even when the storm rages around us, we are ultimately held by a love that is eternal and unbreakable. So, how can we apply this message to our daily lives? The answer lies in trusting in God's love and protection. This trust does not come with a guarantee that life will be free of pain or difficulty, but it comes with the assurance that we are never truly alone. We can find peace in the knowledge that God is with us in every moment, guiding us through every challenge, and offering us the strength to persevere. As we navigate the complexities of life, we are called to embrace the truth that God's love and protection are not just abstract concepts, but powerful forces that shape our lives. They are the foundation upon which we can build our lives, finding peace not in the absence of suffering, but in the presence of God through it all. We are invited to trust in His unfailing love, knowing that He will always be there to strengthen, guide, and protect us. In conclusion, the promise of God's love and protection is one that transcends the limitations of human understanding. It's not about the absence of pain, but about the divine presence that gives us the strength to face whatever comes our way. As we trust in this promise, we find peace that endures beyond our circumstances, a peace that assures us, no matter what storms may come, that we are ultimately held by God's eternal love,